We made it!
Scotland forever!
We've got about 30 hours to go and see as many shows as we can. Let's do it!
A single bilingual.
Of course you're singing the Pet Shop Boys.
That's a good jumper she's got.
You're joking? We've been here. We've got shows booked, Adam, and you're getting flyers.
They come at you thick and fast.
How many have you got so far?
Got 5.
Oh my god.
Goodness me.
It's going to be a long day. Lovely brew that. Thanks, Mum. Right, hiya loves! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, it's the video you've all been waiting for. We're going to be reviewing 8 shows that I saw in 30 hours at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. It was amazing to be back, and it's been a good few years since I went. And not only that, but I was there with my partner Adam, as you will have seen, and we had a lovely time, and we only had one meltdown. One. That's a record. But honestly, we just wanted to soak up the atmosphere as much as we could and see as many shows as we could in the time we were there. So the way this video is going to work is I'm going to take you through each show that we saw. I'll let you know my honest thoughts as ever, and I'll let you know as well if I think it's worth seeing if it's taken further, because you know, you might want to check them out for yourselves. Without further ado, the first show that we saw was Tom Crosbie's Nerd's Eye View. Now I know what you're thinking, it's got the word nerd in it, and that's exactly what Adam did when he heard me say the title of the show. He literally went, "That's what I am, I'm a nerd." One of my friends had posted it on her Instagram story. Her agency that she worked with just so happened to represent this person. Now I was a little bit unsure as to whether it was going to be a lot of comedy or whether it was going to be more sort of nerdy, pop culture, puzzles, that kind of thing. So let me read you the synopsis to give you a bit of an idea about the show. Crosbie will put a smile on your face with his nerdy cavalcade of delights. I love that word. A master of the commercially dubious skill, he'll stagger you with feats of dexterity, charisma, wisdom, and almost certainly not strength. Armed with a Rubik's Cube and a childlike delight at the world, Tom's show is a critical hit. And I can actually see there that he did get a 5-star review from Fringe Guru, which I've heard of that reviewer before at the Fringe, so that's pretty good going. From the moment that this show started, I felt at ease. Tom made it really, really clear to the audience that whatever their neurodiversity was, that this was a safe space for them, and I just thought that was a really, really nice thing to do, because not every show does that, and not every comedian does that especially. He was absolutely charming. We met him after the show and he was so giving with his time, and I really like that about a person. But within the show itself, I mean, he called them useless like skills and things, but they really were fantastic skills, and he made a show out of them. His knowledge and understanding of the science and maths behind all of these tricks and, you know, Rubik's cubes and puzzles was phenomenal. And if I'm honest, I found the show quite inspiring, and it taught me that even if you are into the quirkiest, most niche thing in the world, it doesn't matter. As long as it makes you happy, that's what matters the most. And I think both myself and my partner generally felt really sort of uplifted and positive when we left that show. So thank you, Tom, because it was fantastic. I have to say that the show was definitely family friendly. On the website it was advertised at 5+ for suitability, and I would definitely agree with that. It was one of those that regardless of your age, I think you could take something away from it. It was just a really fantastic show to start off our Fringe experience this year. If the show does happen to go on tour, I do think you should go and watch it, because Tom is brilliant. You'll be blown away by what he does within the show and just how he showcases himself. He did disclose in the show that he comes from a family of entertainers. You can just see it. You can just absolutely see that he's been around people that are used to performing, and he spoke to to you as the audience in a very conversational way, and I loved that. It has to be 5 stars for me. Well done, Tom. It was amazing. Bit of a change of scene. We went to see a musical, and this one was My Sons Are Queer, But What Can You Do by Rob Madge. Now, some of you, especially if you're interested in theatre, you may know Rob from social media, as they do make a lot of content which is hilarious, quite frankly. And the show describes itself as joyous, chaotic, and it's an autobiographical story. So it is about Rob and their life, really. So I'll read you the synopsis to give you a little bit of an idea about the concept for the show. When Rob was 12, they attempted a full-blown Disney parade in their house for their grandma. As Rob donned wigs and played Mary Poppins, Ariel, Mickey Mouse and Belle, their dad doubled as stage manager, sound technician and Goofy. Unfortunately, Dad missed all his cues and pushed all the floats in the wrong direction. Mum mistook Aladdin for Ursula, the costumes went awry, Grandma had a nice time though. My Sons Are Queer, But What Can You Do is the joyous autobiographical story of the social media sensation Rob Madge as they set out to recreate that parade. And this time, nobody is gonna rain on it. That gives you a really good sense of like what this show is about. What really brought it to life was the fact that Rob and his family had lots of home footage that had been recorded when they were young, and it really brought the show to life in a different way. It made it very charismatic but in a personal way. And it was lovely to enter that world, enter that living room and see these shows going on, you know, where Dad was playing all these roles, sound technician and all that kind of thing. It was really, really wholesome. The story itself was really, really quite liberating, as Rob brought to light how non-binary people were seen when they were younger, and how they're seen now as well. And I think for anybody that was watching the show that happened to be within the LGBTQ plus community, I think they will have felt very, very uplifted. I found that I could relate to it in a sense of my living room was also a performance space when I was younger. There was still this sense of relatability that I think was really, really quite lovely. It made you connect immediately with Rob's story. More than anything, it was just inspiring to see somebody so positive and so authentically themselves basically stick their middle finger up to anybody that ever tried to put them down. Really, really powerful. I was very, very emotional. I thought every part of the show intertwined together to make this really beautiful masterpiece of storytelling. And you know what, I have to say it, I'm a massive fan of autobiographical work. Some of the best pieces of theatre I've ever seen have been real events, really, real life, and I think it's important that we see real life on stage. So massive, massive well done to Rob for an outstanding show. I would recommend it. And I have to say it before I move on. When we went to see the show, that was the day that they announced the West End transfer. So you can actually go and see the show in London. I think it's the end of October it's starting, and it will play at the Garrick Theatre until mid-November. So go and check it out. Next up, we have got a comedy show. Ooh! Now, I know this person from seeing Daniel Sloss live, and they were his support. I then found out that they were best friends and they do a podcast together, which you should definitely check out. But Kai Humphries is a brilliant comedian that had a show at the Stand Comedy Club in Edinburgh, and it was called Mischief. Now, I immediately loved the title. I thought, I'm fascinated to know what this is going to be about. He's such a down-to-earth comedian, but because he's a Geordie, his accent just enhances his stories in such a brilliant way. He talked a lot about growing up on a council estate, and the humour that he used was really fantastic. I think for myself, coming from a working class background, I really connected with the stories that he told. It was all round just a very, very good show. I would definitely recommend checking his comedy out if you aren't familiar. Yeah, just well done, Kai, because it was brilliant. Next up, we have got Dots and Dashes, a Bletchley Park musical. This was the last show that we saw on the first day we were there. I'll tell you a little bit about it to give you more of an idea of what it's about. A musical telling the untold story of 6 women working at Bletchley Park during World War II. A story of love, loss, secrets, and the sacrifices these women made to save millions of lives, rise above their roles, and silently fight a war behind closed doors. A musical ode to the unsung heroes of World War II. This all-female, brand new musical is a show you definitely don't want to miss. And I would agree, you certainly don't. If it continues in touring, you should go and see it because it is honestly beautiful. The music within the show was brilliant. I have never heard such close harmonies in my life. They were fantastic, and it was great to see so many alto singers really shining in musical theatre roles, because I don't think there's enough musicals out there which really sort of hone in on the alto voice. I really, as we've established, like real stories translated onto the stage, and I thought this cast did it very, very well. There were some really strong performances from every single person within the cast throughout the show. As I've said there, the music was great, harmonies were tight, slick, well rehearsed, loved it. I did think that a couple of the songs were a little bit too long. They felt like very natural endings within a few of them, and they went on a little bit longer. But nonetheless, I left, and my partner also left, singing some of the songs from the show, which just goes to prove how brilliant it was. Within the show, there's actually quite a few different themes running parallel to the main storyline, which of course is these women trying to help British soldiers essentially win the war. And one of those was, well, I guess this sense of sisterhood within the girls that worked there. There was one particular character, Ida, who is essentially in love with another woman that she works with. Now, of course, at the time during World War II, being queer, it wasn't something that people broadcasted and people were open about. In fact, it was very much not a societal norm at all. Nothing like now, in this day and age. And I thought that the actor playing Ida, which was, let me just refer to my programme, Martha Morris, did an incredibly nuanced job of playing that role. Hard role to take on, I must admit. The way she embodied the character felt very honest and truthful, and I really, really connected with her character. The other standout performance for me had to be Katie Damer. Now, I do know Katie. Katie, if you're watching this, hello, you did amazing. I was really, really touched by the way she played the role of Blanche. Blanche is quite a stubborn, blunt, forthright character, I would say, but there is a lot of heart within her, and I think Katie really showcased that beautifully. And what I loved was that she wasn't waiting for her husband or partner to come back from the war. She was actually waiting for her brother to come back. And so when she finds out within the show that her brother is not coming back, the way that is then translated into song and into a letter which she reads from her brother, I thought it was heartbreaking. And I think it was really nice to see a different kind of relationship showcased within the show, because of course many women at the time would have had family members and partners going off to war, and it wouldn't have just been their husbands. So I think it was really great to see that representation of a sibling relationship. All in all, I do genuinely think that this was the strongest ensemble piece we saw at the Fringe. I would like to see the show further developed. I think, as I said before, the music was so brilliant. I would really like to see that either shortened down a little bit. But the harmonies, so emotive. I thought they really enhanced the story. And to finish the show off, they essentially did a version of We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn, which was incredibly moving. I was really lost for words at that point of the show. I congratulate the whole team on creating such a beautiful musical, and dedication to those unsung heroes, because it really, really was tremendous. Then we had a lovely stay at an Airbnb, which was a dream. I met a dog at the Airbnb, which was the owner's rescue dog, and I completely fell in love. We had a lovely time there. They were great. The next day we had a little bit of a meltdown in the morning. But we did manage to get to a show in the morning at 10. I think Adam went to a different show at this point, so I saw this one on my own. My friend Claire, if you're watching this, Claire, hello. And it was C Theatre's Shakespeare for breakfast. I don't know about you, but I hear that title and immediately want to know what's going on. I want to go to this show. What I loved about this show is just how witty it was. It was very relaxed, great for families. I think it was advertised as being family friendly for any age, which I think was great. And it was 50 minutes as well, which not the typical hour show, but I think 50 minutes is good for in the morning. It's what you need. It's a nice little wake up. Not only that, but they gave out free croissants and juice and coffee if you wanted it, but I wanted juice, so I'll read you the description for the show and we'll have a little bit of a chat about it. The Bardic Breakfasters are back. See sensational Shakespearians returns for our 31st Fringe with free coffee and croissants. A pleasing plethora of pentameter, puns and pastry. Perfect for hardened fans of the bard and blank verse virgins alike. Nice little review. Synopsis. I thought this show was great. It wasn't the best show that I saw at the Fringe. Did it uplift me? Yes, it did. Did it entertain me? Yes, it did. I thought the performances within it were fantastic. You had 3 characters within it, and 3 actors, should I say, and they each multi-rolled, really showcasing their talents as actors, really. And they told the story of A Winter's Tale, which is of course one of Shakespeare's plays. They told it in modern English, so it was very accessible for people that perhaps were interested in Shakespeare but didn't quite understand the language, that kind of thing. Or generally it was great for people that had seen A Winter's Tale, did know Shakespeare and just wanted to see a little bit of a farcical retelling of the story. All round, really enjoyed it. Thought it was very feel good, great performances. I'd like to see it again in future, but I think I'd like to see it with a different Shakespeare play being played out. This would work really well for young people, perhaps even in schools. I don't know if the company have ever thought about taking the shows into schools, but I do think it would work really well. Like I was saying just then, it's making Shakespeare and that classical text accessible to people that maybe don't fully get it just yet, at least. I absolutely love Shakespeare, so I think I was always going to be a fan of this show. Next up, we've got a little bit of poetry. I was so excited to see Harry Baker, Unashamed. For anyone that doesn't know who Harry Baker is, he's a spoken word poet, and he was the first spoken word poet I was ever introduced to, so it was an absolute joy to see his show. It's all about kind of his journey through lockdown, really, and how it affected him and how he then rediscovered his creative buzz, if you will, after lockdown, and sort of how the last few years have been for him. So I'll read the description for you. World Poetry Slam champion Harry Baker's heart and humour has been watched by millions online and allowed him to perform all over the world, until suddenly he couldn't. From reviewing toilet seats online to writing falafel-based diss tracks for Chris Evans, he's back on stage where he belongs with his most heartfelt, playful, unashamedly Harry Bakery show yet. It's had amazing reviews and I can totally understand why. This show had every single bit of heart you can imagine. Incredible poetic skills as ever. He's one of those people that I think will sort of appeal to different generations as well. I can imagine if I was 10 years younger, I can imagine really engaging with his poetry quite well. As far as spoken word shows go, I think this was one of the best shows we could have seen at the Fringe, and I'm so fortunate to have seen Harry Baker at the Fringe I think maybe 2 or 3 times now, but he is going on tour around the UK, so you should definitely go and check out Unashamed. Absolutely beautiful show. I thought it was just so honest, so raw, great show. So then we had a very brief gap between Harry Baker and Catherine Bohart, a comedian, which we'd booked tickets for later that day. We knew we didn't have a lot of time, however we wanted to try and fit in a show if we could, and we found this show which was called A Change of Heart by Paper Dolls Theatre Company. This was a 40-minute play. So I'll read you the synopsis and we'll delve right into it. Two sisters, two broken hearts. While Rose fights for her life on a transplant ward, Hazel navigates complicated changes in her love life. One sister spends her days waiting, her body deteriorating as she faces a race against time to find a heart. She lives a monotonous routine involving doctors, resting, and drug-induced hallucinations. The other sister is catapulted into an emotionally testing relationship with herself that proves different to anything she expected. Hearts are broken, healed, added, removed, but ultimately changed. A heartwarming tale of family, support, and a life lived in waiting. Quite a synopsis, I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot going on there, so I'm gonna try and break this up into sections if I can. Very shortly into this performance, I realised that it was probably going to be based on true events. As we've discussed, I am very big on true stories on stage. I think it's really fantastic. There were a couple of moments within the show where there was physical theatre involved, and you know, they kind of used their bodies to show, for example, the beating of the heart, the new heart which one of the characters got. I thought that was great. It could have been a little bit tidier, and I think that came to the direction of it. Their positioning on stage, the accuracy that they used physically, I think could have been a little bit better. Nonetheless, I did like the physical aspect of it. I thought it was very well timed within the show as well. The writing itself, it was difficult at times because both of the characters, the two sisters, are quite young in the show, so I think some of the language was a little bit too mature. I'm not sure whether they had taken verbatim word for word accounts from the person they based it off and used that within the show. If that's the case, then fair enough. However, it did feel as if they'd written an adaptation of this story for the play, and it did feel a little bit too old. Like I said, too mature for these two sisters. Nonetheless, to have the difference between the sister having the heart transplant and the younger sister who would potentially have that youthful energy, that was definitely there, and that was great. I thought that Tess Sharland, who played Hazel in the performance, was great. She had a really youthful energy about her. However, from the synopsis, I did think that she was going to be sort of tested emotionally by her relationship with somebody else and not herself, so that came as a little bit of a surprise. Nonetheless, I thought she played the part really well. Definitely the bit more kind of fun character, well, challenging Rose, who was played by Harriet being the character that had the heart transplant. With that, I thought that Harriet did really well. That's a tough role to take on, and I thought she played it very well. Definitely saw the deterioration of her, well, just her body and her energy and everything within the duration of the show. For me, Meg Sharland, who played Charlie, I don't know whether there was like a missing link or something, but I was a little bit unsure why that character was in the show. When there was a scene between Harriet as Rose and Meg as Charlie, it became clear that they had become friends in the hospital ward and that they were both suffering from a similar illness. However, it wasn't 100% necessary to the story. If you'd have only had the two sisters, I think that would have been really impactful, because you had the two contrasting sort of set of emotions and experiences which just worked very well together. I was very touched by the story, and the theatre company themselves were doing a lot of good stuff to raise awareness and money for a charity that focuses on this particular condition, this heart condition. Nonetheless, I think there was just a bit of trick missed, I think. For me, it came down to the direction of the show. There just seemed to be this kind of surface level understanding and depth to performance, which didn't really put across the weight of how sort of severe this condition can be. I think if you're going to portray real life on stage and a condition like this, it's important to do as much research as you can, speak to as many people as you can that have suffered or are suffering with it, and try and emphasise that within the way that you play the roles and within the way that you direct a show like this. I'd like to see where it goes from here. I'd like to see it further developed, but all in all, I thought it was a really good piece of theatre, and yeah, best of luck to the team as they move forward with the show. And finally, I can't quite believe it, we've made it to the 8th show, yeah. Catherine Bohart, this isn't for you. Well, actually it is. Her comedy show was on at the Monkey Barrel, which is just off the Mile in Edinburgh. Quite honestly, it was one of the most fearless comedy shows I think I've ever seen. Catherine is brilliant. She's always one step ahead of the audience, and I really, really engaged with her whole show, which for me is quite rare actually, where comedians are concerned. Catherine Bohart loves control, hates change, and is a serial planner. It's been an interesting couple of years, a blisteringly funny new stand-up show filled with horrendous life advice, cheery nihilism and reluctant self-discovery from one of the UK and Ireland's most exciting comics. I would agree with that. She is exciting, and I would absolutely agree with every single thing that is in that description. She definitely delivered. Great stand-up comic. I am excited to see where she goes in the future, and I would recommend going to see her. So there we have it. We made it. Thank you so much for watching this review. If you've stuck with me until the end, you're an absolute legend. I love you. If you'd like to see more theatre reviews, leave a like, comment down below. If you've seen any of the shows yourself and want to have a chat about them, please drop me a message. I'd be more than happy to chat to you about them. And finally, subscribe to my channel for more theatre reviews. If you put the bell on, you'll get notified every time I post something. How good is that? Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.